These my dollars make it hurt.
Welcome back to a Week 14 lineup edition of the Deep Cover Podcast. I'm your host, Kerry Stevenson. As I always say, shout out to my guys, Mike Crawford, Chris Aguilera. If you're new to the channel, man, do us a huge favor. Like this video and subscribe to the channel, whether it be Ravens-related content, fantasy content, NFL draft content. Shout out to my brother Chris, who just came through with a nice pod breaking down some office alignment prospects, whether it be film review. Shout out to my guy Mike for getting in the lab and doing that. We're just bringing a lot of different things at the table, man, a one-stop shop. So make sure you subscribe, keep up with what we're doing. But, this is a lineup show. So before we go forward with Week 14, we're going to take a look back at Week 13. Win with the Steelers stack. I thought it was good process. It was kind of slow for a while there. The Ravens kind of dominated the clock for a lot of the game. Steelers ended up kind of getting there in the fourth quarter. Ben had 19. Deontay went off for like 33. Had an 8-105 and 2 line for 33 points. Frymouth was pedestrian. Hollywood Brown was pedestrian. Even with that, we probably still could have did some things if we just had somebody else to like really, really go off, and it just never kind of materialized. I really wanted to capitalize on the running back value that we had last week, and I was able to do that. Madison, Gibson, and Connor, putting those three guys together, 62 points between the three of them. So, we'll take that. We'll also take Elijah Moore going for 20 at lower rostership. Washington football defense didn't get there. Pretty uneventful game there. Played in the teens. They ended up only scoring like 3 points. Just wasn't enough going on to kind of get a back and forth, maybe get a sack, pick six, something like that. Just wasn't that kind of game. So 157 for the total for last week's lineup. Clearly not enough to get us where we want to get to, but, we got a few chances left. Quite a few actually, with the playoffs included. Those are new to this lineup. I do this through the playoffs, through to the Super Bowl. So, we still got time to be grinding and trying to win this money, trying to win a little extra Christmas cash. Don't spend the Christmas cash on DFS though. Secure the presents first. I don't want no kids coming at me in these streets. But yeah, secure the Christmas first, and then get a little extra with these lineups. So let's go ahead and jump into Week 14. So obviously this Bills-Bucks game is the clear elephant in the room. It's by far the best game on the slate. And like everybody, I'm going to be trying my hand at it, trying to figure out the most optimal way of playing it, trying to get different within it. And just trying to put together a strong lineup, stacking that game, because it's scoring all over the place in that game. So that's something that everybody's gonna try to get to. And something about this week, the pivots to me are clear too. There's Raiders, Chiefs, Cowboys, and Washington football team, and then the Bengals and 49ers. So you have those three games, and then you just got a bunch of rusty, dusty games outside of that. So I feel like finding the advantage in this week is going to be trying to find the right rusty game. Those dusty 41, 42 point total games. If you can find one that you can put a little WD-40 on, shine it up a little bit, and it hits, you could win big. So, in the spirit of that, I went back and forth, debated this a long time. Just trying to figure out some kind of way to find some kind of advantage. I debated the quarterback plays a lot. I could have went with Taysom, could have went with Cam, but those guys are tougher to stack. And then, in Cam's case with, Matt Rule getting rid of the OC there, and he probably watched that Monday night game with the Patriots and, got a little turned on. So, Cam might have 10 attempts this week, if he has anything to say about it. So, those options, man, it's options out there, but they've been kind of talked about some, and I like to kind of go against the grain. There's also others that look like solid options, but they have questionable ceilings. So I'm going to the team I cover this week at quarterback, and that's going to be, with Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Lamar Jackson has struggled the past 4 games. Uh, we're not breaking any news with that, but we know his ceiling is among the highest at the position. This game kind of feels more likely to be like a divisional slugfest, kind of played in the teens, low 20s. But when you look a little bit deeper into this game, and injuries on both sides could force this game to go another way. You got the Ravens who have a banged up offensive line. Then you got Pat Ricard and Nick Boyle questionable to play in this game. And again, as I said, what they're facing as far as O line injuries. So that's one side of it. Then you got the Browns. They got a banged up O line as well. They haven't run the ball as well in recent weeks, and now they're going to be going up against a banged up Ravens secondary. And both of these teams defend the run well. So this game could turn into a more pass happy game than a lot of people expected, including myself. I on the group pod I talked about how I thought that the Browns would try to run the ball early and often, and this was going to be one of those kind of slog type games potentially, and it may be, but we're banking on in this case it not being that way. Trying to find some kind of opportunity to get different and try to cash in. So I'm going that way here. You know how I do with this lineup. I've never shied away from, taking an alternate route, taking the scenic route, and trying to find an edge. So I'm going to try to find that edge this week by plugging Lamar in. Not a lot of people are going to play him this week, I'd imagine. Like getting different there with a quarterback that has that level of upside. So plugging in Lamar there. Obviously, I'm going to stack him, but because of his rushing prowess, I'm not going to stack him with multiple guys. So the one guy I am going to plug into this lineup with him is Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is a guy who's going to get volume regardless. And especially if we're projecting more dropbacks, he can get double digit targets in this game. He may even get it without it. He had 10 targets the last time these teams faced a couple weeks ago, and um, I like going with him here because he's in that middle of the pack, probably from a popularity standpoint, and because his price is more on the higher end, he's probably not going to get played very much. A lot of people are just going to pay up for Kittle or Kelsey, or they're going to pay down to guys like Jared Cook or Austin Hooper. So I like plugging in a guy like that who has the ceiling that Andrews has, as a guy that can, make his hay with deep crossers and down the seam. And, we know he can get into the end zone. Um, and so I like having a guy like that with the ceiling that he has, but also falling under the radar. So like plugging in Andrews here. Staying in this game, I've identified a run back. The Ravens are, a banged up secondary. Warren Sharpers pointed out, they give up the highest percentage of completions over 20 yards in the NFL. So I'm gonna go and plug in the Browns lid lifter at 3,800, and that's gonna be Donovan Peoples Jones. He's locked in as a number 2 receiver for the Browns. He's a guy that gives them that vertical element, and surprisingly, Baker will take his shots down the field. So like that, you know, ability to get downfield and make a play or two happen. I also like because of that. Um, we're not banking so much on him having to have 8 targets or 9 targets to get it done. He can get it done in 4 targets, 5 targets, just depending on how things break. So like him as a run back, especially at that price at 3,900 looks like for him. So going Donovan Peoples Jones there, and that's going to kind of close out um, that stack. And so we're gonna move along to the running back position. This is pretty much straightforward. Austin Eckler to me is one of the best plays on this slate, regardless of position. His touches are secure as it gets. The matchup is great. He has a strong target share for a running back, and that stands to even get better with Keenan Allen out. Being that underneath target. So love Eckler this week. So let's go ahead and find that game and plug him in. We go Eckler. Other running back spot guy I really like this week as well is Josh Jacobs. With Kenyon Drake out and Jalen Richard out, he's slated to absorb most of, if not all of the third down work for the Raiders. He had 9 targets last week, which bodes well. The Chiefs have played much better defense, but this is a matchup that's still a good one for him um, to be able to have some success on the ground. And obviously, I just spoke about what his ability is in the passing game. So just another really strong play at a good price point. So plugging in Josh Jacobs at that second running back position. Now next we're gonna start plugging in at these wide receivers. So I'm gonna dip my toe in this Bucks Bills game, and I'm gonna go with Mike Evans. Chris Godwin coming off an insane performance last week. He's probably gonna be more popular than Evans, but the way things kind of stand outside, as far as boundary corners with Trey White being out, I'm gonna bet on Mike Evans' talent, all day, every day in this high total game, and that price point to me at 6,600 is a very good price for him, and his overall upside. So expecting a strong game from him. Could be a back and forth affair. So I like going Mike Evans there. This other wide receiver spot, I'm going with a guy who should be the main cog in the passing game for the Chargers, and that's Mike Evans. I mean, not Mike Evans, Mike Williams. He went over 100 yards last week. There's no Keenan Allen there, and the Chargers kind of made a concerted effort last week, maybe even the week before, if I can remember correctly, to start throwing downfield again. So we know that is Mike Williams' main calling card. So at 6K with more volume and the possibility that they're going to take multiple shots down the field and give him chances to win, contested in the air. I love that at 6K. So, kind of gives you the best of both worlds with volume and upside as far as splash plays. So plugging in Mike Evans, I keep saying Mike Evans, Mike Williams there with my other receiver spot. And now I gotta get cheap here. I've um, spent a lot of money, and now I gotta hit that bargain bin, man. I gotta find some value here to fill out this flex and fill out this defensive spot. So first for my flex, I'm going with a guy that looks like he should be one of the more attractive players at that near minimum price point, and that's Keelan Cole with the Jets. Corey Davis and now Elijah Moore is on IR. Cole last week had a brief stint on the COVID list, missed last week's game, but in week 12 he played 96% of the snaps. So that's a lot of playing time for a guy that's only 100 more than the minimum. And Cole is a guy that I've always been fond of. He can play a lot of different roles on the offense. He showed he can play outside and win down the field. He's shown that he can, stretch the field. He's also, played some in the slot towards the end of his tenure with the Jags. So he's a guy that I like. He's not the biggest guy, not the fastest guy, but he's shown ability to make plays at each level of the field when he's been called upon. So I really, really like him. He's going to be probably a staple of what I'm doing when I need, a cheap receiver to plug in. So going Keelan Cole here, plugging him into that flex spot, and to close out this lineup, going with this Jaguars defense. They're cheap. They stop the run, which is what the Titans want to do. The Titans haven't been great offensively in recent weeks. They've been very banged up. Should get Julio Jones back this week, but he's probably going to be on the pitch count of some sort. And did I mention they were cheap? I don't have a lot of money to work with. Got to kind of do the best we can do in that price point. But I like this because nobody's going to play this defense, especially with everything that's going on right now with them. So they should be shouldn't be played very much at all. And this Titans offense isn't lighting anybody on fire right now. So um, they could stumble across a couple sacks and, maybe a turnover or two, even in spite of their head coach in that situation. And if they can do that, um, that puts us in really good shape. If we can get a defense, especially if they get a touchdown, they get a touchdown at that price point, and near to no rostership, that puts us in really good shape. So I like taking my chances with them, and that's going to close out the lineup for this week, man. So I'd like to thank you all for continuing to rock with me in this lineup, and as always, go out there and get you some bread. I'll see you next week.